Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Welcome to all of us. Today we are going to be excited about research. I will ask, please, Chourouk Mzahi, responsible for the research on Poitiers campuses, to come with us to talk about research. Welcome to Chourouk. Good morning. This exciting morning about research. So, Chourouk Mzahi, it's really good to have you here.
Thank you.
So we are going to talk about research, but first, my first question is quite simple. What is research?
Oh, that's a very good question. So, what is research? Research is actually a creative work which is undertaken on the systematic basis in order to increase the stock of knowledge. So, research helps us to, for example, confirm theories. It helps us also to solve problems, to create new theories. So research is at the same time very general, but it's also very specific, because actually there are no general researchers. Researchers are experts in their topic, their field, so it's at the same time general and specific actually.
Many people consider that research is really not useful. What can you answer to them, and to what extent do you consider that research is really useful?
So, research is useful for the society and for also the individual level. So, we can consider research as something which is not useful, because without research we can't actually move forward. We can, as I said, confirm existing theories, we can test new hypotheses, so we need research to move forward in different disciplines. So, for example, in management it's very important to support the research, because it helps us, for example, to reduce costs, it helps us to increase or improve our performance. So, research is, I think, something necessary.
Okay, so in today's fast-moving world, we talk a lot about the knowledge world. How is it to be a researcher on a daily life basis?
So, actually it's very hard to be a researcher, because it's tough and it takes a long time. Just for your information, to be able to publish in a ranked journal, it takes at least 2 years. So, and the better you want to do, the longer it takes actually, because when you target a high-ranked journal, you will have a peer-reviewed system. So the research is based on peer-review systems. Everybody knows the system. We know that it takes time, the cycle is long, but it's necessary. So it's not very easy every day to be a researcher, but it's very exciting, because actually when we do research, we would like to find something, and when we find something, it's a real pleasure, actually.
And you publish only once 2 years.
So, actually this is what the Ministry of Education in France asks from all the professors in business school and in university. So they ask the professors to publish one ranked review, rank, every 2 years. But great researchers could publish more if they feel to do it, and they are able to do it.
So you talk about the fact that it's useful research. To what extent it might be very useful for a private company? Because it's not obvious for us as students to consider that we need researchers in business school compared to the universities.
So, actually, private companies are very often facing management problems, and to help them solve these concrete problems, research is very useful. So, as I said, the issues of increasing the performance, of reducing costs, increasing the quality of the service or the product actually requires research, requires people who will work on that topic, on that subject, and try to find solutions for them. And that's why they really need research.
So you consider that for many private companies, it's an added value?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
in work.
Yeah, actually, it's an added value. It helps them in their daily activities, and it helps them also in this competitive environment that all of you, I think, here in business school know about.
So, if we go further into that issue, how is research here at France Business School organized?
So, here we have a research lab, and we have the graph here that explains how research is organized. So as you can see, we have the research lab which is managed by Richard. So he is the big boss of research in fBS. And then we have 5 different sub-labs or centers, okay? And every center is specialized on a very specific topic. So you will have a lab specialized on innovation, another one on education, another one on management, and the last one, which is the lab of Atawat. So here, yes, so this is the first one, the second one, and every time you can see the head of the lab. And the last one is the lab that I am in charge of, which is the Atawat relationship. I don't know if you know this expression. Atawat is anywhere, anytime, and any device conception. So it's related to the digital marketing, but not only, it's also related to new technologies and their role in an organization or a business. So around this subject or theme, there are several professors, and I'm in charge of managing these professors, and we are working around a project related to digital marketing and new technologies.
Okay, and so you're managing on Poitiers campus all the research bits.
So I'm managing research in Poitiers. That's my role. I'm trying to animate research. My role is to help my colleagues doing research, to support them, to give them the help that they need, to talk also about research as I'm doing this morning. And my second role is to manage this center, and here I'm managing colleagues from other campuses, from Brest, Clermont or Amiens, for example, around the subject of Atawat.
Around this topic, so it means that you invite people to come here?
Yes.
People from various campuses?
Yeah, we invite people and we organize research days, and we can see here some pictures of the atmosphere and the ambience of our research days in Poitiers. So several professors meet together and try to talk about research, present their papers, present their publications, and we try to give feedback, we try to move forward on several projects actually.
So it means that you work together on the whole fBS group, not only on the campus?
Yes. So actually we have 2 levels. We have the campus level, where we work together with our colleagues, with the professors that you know very well, but we have also a project with the other campuses and with colleagues from other campuses.
So to be a researcher, you need a doctorate, right?
It helps actually. Yeah, it helps. You need to prepare your PhD or your doctorate. It depends on the system. But there are very rare people who are not doctor, and who can do research, who are trying to publish. But usually they decide to start a dissertation, a PhD dissertation or a doctorate just afterwards.
So to be a researcher you need a doctorate or a PhD. To what extent it might be useful for our students, because we consider very often that only a master's degree is enough to find a job on the labor market. That's
true. But actually it depends on your objectives, on your career, what you want to do. As I said at the beginning, research enables you to have a very good expertise. So if you want to be considered as an expert in a specific domain or specific topic, it's really recommended to do a PhD. And in terms of salary, it can also help you in your career. So if you are aiming to be an expert, a PhD can be an added value.
Okay, to become an expert. So you talk about this salary, this possibility of a salary raise.
Yes.
Let's talk about money. How is it, you told us it's hard, it's tough to be a researcher today. How is it to find funds?
So, to do research, we need money, that's obvious. And for our case, research and management, we need the support of companies, actually. So companies sometimes help researchers to conduct projects. They give the funds necessary to specific projects, especially when these projects can help them solving their problems. But also the government help researchers to do research even in management. So there are specific budget from the Ministry of Education that is provided for researcher to conduct specific projects. But you need to present your project, you need to justify the importance of your project and what are going to be the output of your project. So, and what are the managerial implications of your project. So if there are not very interesting managerial implications, the government won't support you and help you. Actually.
So it's you who go and see the private company, or do the private company comes and see you and ask you to do something?
That's very interesting. Yeah, because we used to go and ask for money from the government or from the companies, but what we are trying to do with fBS is different actually, because we are trying to build different expertise around the 5 themes that I have showed you, and around this expertise we are trying to attract companies. So a company that needs an expertise about, for example, the Ottawa, the issues, they will come and ask us help actually to solve their problems. So we are trying to raise funds differently actually.
So it means that sometimes you work as consultancy or as consultant for companies?
Yes, we need to be careful because research is different from consultancy, but it's a step, okay? That's the first step, and it enables you to have a contact with the firm, with the company, and then you can propose a research project for these companies. But many professors in the school who are researchers work as consultants, and I want to say that to be an expert or to be a doctor in your specific field helps you to be a consultant actually for the company, because you have more credibility. If you are considered as an expert in brand attachment, for example, the firm will feel more comfortable to work with you and you will be more credible actually.
So for the students that would like to become a consultant, you would give this advice to be interested in the doctorate or the PhD?
I think with their fBS degree they will be able to be consultant, but if they are aiming maybe an academic career after a traditional career, or if they are aiming maybe a very specific topic, I would suggest them to, yeah. Exactly.
So thank you for this interesting overview about research. So now let's talk about the dissertation for our students. Why do you consider that dissertation is very important for students?
So first of all, dissertation is very important for you guys because you need the mémoire and you need your dissertation to get your degree. So to be graduate, actually you need to finish your dissertation, so it's compulsory to do it. That's for the, let's say, administrative reasons, but there are other reasons for you as students, because the dissertation helps you actually to acquire competencies such as solving problems, such as working on literature review. So it enables you to have more conceptual skills and competences, and also it helps you to be more organized and to follow a very specific methodology, because the specificity of research is to follow a very, very strict methodology that enables you to have pertinent results.
So that's why you consider it has to be compulsory.
Yes, it has to be, it's compulsory, but it has to be compulsory because it helps you also to acquire skills that you will need for your jobs actually in the future. So working on reports in a company is similar than working on a research dissertation for your master's degree.
Okay, and how does it work, so this dissertation process?
So the dissertation process in fBS is organized in a platform. So you have several steps. Everything is online. You have online classes, online lectures about the methodology, about the literature review, about the different steps. There are 3 main steps, 3 livrables, 3 reports. The first report enables you to present your project. The second one enables you to present your literature review. Then the methodology, okay, to present the choices that you made in terms of methodology, and then you have your final report. And for every student you have a supervisor who will support and help the student during the whole process.
Okay, and we will talk with the students about this process afterwards, but can you tell us a bit more about that? Where do they find information about all the processes and how it works and
so,
what's expected?
Yes, they have all the information actually on the website of fBS, and it explains very well how it works, but they have some classes before the dissertation that also explain the whole process, and then they have the contact with their supervisor at the beginning of the process, and they can go and see their supervisor and ask all the questions that they want or they need to ask.
So it's the first step in the direction of research, that's right. If we talk further about that, which possibilities do students have afterwards?
After the dissertation, yes. So they can move forward by preparing PhD. So there are 2 systems. There is the PhD system, which is more Anglo-Saxon, which is different from the doctorate, which is more French, French universities. So just for your information, fBS is working on a PhD program, and I think it will be provided starting from next year. A PhD which is very international, and a PhD which is based on the Anglo-Saxon system. So during this PhD also you can have some internships, so very, very specific. Or you can have a traditional doctorate, as I did, in a French university. It lasts between 3 and 4 years. You have a supervisor, and you have a final defense at the end of the process.
Where did you study, by the way?
Yes, so I studied Aix-en-Provence. I prepared my PhD there, but I also did some visitings as a PhD student, and a part of my PhD was actually directed or supervised by Danish professors in the Southern University of Denmark, actually.
Okay, so it means that even as PhD or doctorate students, you may travel. You have this possibility. That's something we don't know.
Actually, yes, you need to travel because, as I said at the beginning, research is creative work. So you need to travel, you need to meet other people, you need to discover or see other methodology. So it's very helpful for you. So the visiting PhD students are, actually we do have here some foreign PhD students. We have PhD students from India and a PhD student from Iran. So it's very important for a PhD student to go abroad and to see something different. Actually.
It's interesting to hear you, Chourouk Mzahi, because we don't have this image of research, and we consider that research is only being at the desk office, you know, under the desk, in the library. So that's really interesting to hear you talking about that. There are more and more researchers in business school.
Yeah.
This is a trend we observe.
That's true.
How do you explain that?
That's very important because actually the business schools schools today are assessed, as you know, by several organizations and by ministry also. And this organization assess and evaluate the pedagogy part, but they also assess and evaluate the research aspect. And all the business schools need to have researchers because it's very important for their program. Because we didn't talk about it, but there is a very, let's say, important relationship between the research and the pedagogy. A researcher will talk about his topics, his researches in his classes and in his lectures. So it's very important for business school to have researchers, and for the accreditation, for example, system or organization such as the CSB, the accreditation that we used to have and that we are applying for the 2 next coming years, it's very important. They look at the research activity in the campus, they look at how many researchers we have, so it's very important for all the business schools to develop their research activity.
So that's how business schools are assessed. We didn't talk about that, but the dissertation that the students are going to do, how is it assessed?
Yeah, so the dissertation is assessed, let's say, by two forms of assessment. Two forms of assessment. The first form is the assessment of the supervisor. The supervisor will assess the content of the dissertation. The supervisor follows the students from the beginning to the end of the process, so he knows very well the student, he knows also the topic, he knows the specific subject, but there is a second assessment which is an oral assessment, and this assessment is held at the end of the process by a second professor, the day of the defense actually of your dissertation. So you have the assessment from your supervisor, and at the end of the process, you will present your dissertation in front of 2 professors. The first one is your supervisor. The second one is a professor who haven't read your dissertation, actually, who is not necessarily an expert of your topic, but he will assess your oral presentation and your ability to explain your topic to someone who actually doesn't know the topic or the subject. So 2 forms of assessment.
So it's a way to foster students to be convincing.
Yeah, exactly, to be convincing and to make research clear for everybody. So actually, when we write a research article, I had a professor in Aix-en-Provence who told us, when you write a research article and you give it to your grandmother, and she has to understand it. If she doesn't understand it, there is something which is wrong actually in your research article. So it needs to be also clear and accessible for everybody.
Do you know if many students are going on with research after the dissertation process?
In business schools, it's rare to have a student who decides to follow with a PhD just after the master degree. But we have several business school students who have their master degree, they have a professional experience as a consultant or as a director, so they have several positions, and then they decide to come back and prepare a PhD. So in business school, it's almost always like that. They go and they try to work in different companies, and then they understand the importance of research, and they come back maybe to follow and to continue their studies in terms of PhD studies.
Okay, so in that case, it might compete with MBA, PhD and MBA.
Yeah, actually MBA is different. MBA is actually aims to improve your position. It's general, okay? It's very general about management, even if we can sometimes have very specialized MBAs today, but it's still something general that helps you to understand the concepts related to your professional experience, actually. And research is different because it helps you to acquire a very specific skill, a very specific competency.
So it's really not the same approach?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Chourouk Mzahi, responsible for research on the Poitiers campus. You can stay with us. I will ask our first students to testimony. Please, Jasmine. Jasmine is studying on the third medical program. Good morning, Jacqueline. Jasmine, sorry. Good morning, Jasmine.
Good morning.
Jacqueline is not that too, but I prefer Jasmine. Thank you for being with us. My first question will be quite simple. What's your topic of your dissertation? And if you don't mind, just introduce yourself a bit.
To introduce myself, I would just say that I'm in international business management specialty, because while you will have to choose your subject for your dissertation, you will choose it according to your specialty subject. So you will have a list of many topics, many subjects. You have to choose a big theme. For me it was international business, and from this theme you will have to choose the subject and more specifically the topic, what we call problematic. It's the issues we will problem identification, the different issues you will try to answer during all your process at mémoire. As far as I'm concerned, I choose international, multicultural management. The thing is that I have Chourouk will explain that you will have to choose your subject first, and then look for some case studies. For me it was a little bit different, because it was because of my experience that I wanted to know more about multicultural management and how can we today deal with teams that come from different cultures, different countries, especially because of globalization, and the way to make this leading power for the company and not to be, how can you say, an obstacle for it. So,
okay, so why did you make this choice?
For us it was last year at the end of May, but I heard that it would be maybe different for next year. I don't know. They will start it later.
No, I think
on September.
Yeah.
So it's new. I don't know about it because for us we didn't have enough time. You know, it was just like you just finishing your second year, you will have the module expert and then choose your theme and topic. So maybe this year it will be different and we will have more time to think about it. But don't forget to think about it, because there is internships during the summer. There are also people who go on vacation, but you may just consider that it is very important to choose a theme that would make you work all the year without being annoyed by the theme. So
yes, you have to make the choice so that you will be very happy with this work. Yeah, definitely.
you will live with this topic for 1
Yeah.
year, so you need to work on something that you enjoy actually, otherwise it will
be
be complicated.
difficult. Yeah, it's
dissertation process is your new friend for 1 year. Yeah. What about your topic? So you told us intercultural management. Why did you choose that?
Well, I find it interesting because I do like work with many cultures. For me it's much more exciting, you learn much more
You
things.
also have several cultures, I think.
Yeah.
Can you just tell us something about that? Because I think it's interesting.
Well, I don't know if we can talk about several cultures, but yes, well, I am Moroccan. I've been living in Morocco for 18 years. But I'm also Spanish from my grandmother, so I do speak Spanish, Arabic, French, English, and a little bit of Italian. But yes, I do like multicultural.
For you, how the process works? Do you consider it works well? What do you think about the whole process of the dissertation? Let's be honest.
Yeah, totally. She knows me, so I think that she has chosen me today because of being honest. So, to begin with, I think that, as Ms. Mzahi told you, it is quite easy thanks to the e-learning platform. The thing is that for your third year, it will be everywhere, all around the world, for your specialty, for your internships. So it is really hard to go and meet your supervisor every time. So the e-learning process helps you be in contact with your supervisor easily and to have access to all the tools. As Ms. Mzahi told you, you have the lectures, you have PowerPoints, you have everything on the platform. So it makes it really easy, honestly. But there is a little thing that is not working that well. That cost me a bad mark. But the thing is that they mixed on the platform both processes. There is the Recherche, mémoire process, which we are concerned. But there is also parcours d'études de cas, which is for another campus. And if you are not aware about this, you may have the wrong PowerPoints and give the wrong.
Confusing.
It's just this thing. Really, it's small thing. But we decided to write to Géraldine de la Rue, which is in charge of the platform, and just tell her that there is that big confusion. But that's all. Honestly, you can have everything online.
Which difficulties do you have, or do you consider that all students have? Is it more in collecting data, or is it more with the website and the processes, or the conceptual analysis? Because let's be honest, it's not an easy task.
No,
it's not easy.
It's not easy. It's time consuming. It's and as I told you, it is a good thing to choose a topic that you are fancy of, but it's also a way to make you maybe be disgusted from the subject, because really it is you have to take it the right way. And as you were speaking about, the collecting data part is really important, and you have to be aware of all the tools before starting. You will have all the access to many data. From Infotech, you will have the presentation. There is too many ways to have access to data that it is really hard to choose which are the best ways. So as starters, we're just look everything, read a lot, and afterwards, and the way of also looking for data is hard. You have the specific words, what you are looking for. Everything is explained in the lectures. While you started doing it, it is a little bit time-consuming and hard, and you can be confused because you have too many scientific texts. Yeah.
That's important to mention. Yes, that's true. Because you need to know that in your dissertation you won't use articles, for example, from newspapers or from magazines. You need to use, as Yasmin said, scientific articles issued from scientific reviews, and that's very important. And I would like also to add that the dissertation is an opportunity for you to read these scientific articles, to acquire the scientific methodology, and it's not always the opportunity to give your opinion. It's not the aim, okay? It's actually to do an objective work of research and to try to test hypotheses or to explore or to understand phenomena.
You were totally right. I have to tell you also this as being honest. 2 days ago, well, I was with some friends who are in Caesar here, in Campus. Yeah. And they were asking me about mémoire, and one of them was like, oh, I really want my memoir to be so good so it can help me find a good job then. And I was like, okay, but calm down, you're not gonna make a revolution in your memoir. It's not about this. Because first I was also excited about this. I was like, oh my god, it's so cool. We're going to look for so many things, to answer new questions that are not that have not been answered yet. But it's not that. It's, as it say, just research. So it's a way to answer some questions in other questions and so on. But you may keep in mind that it is research work, first of all. And it's not, it's, I think, much more different than the PhD and the other.
Still research and PhD, but for the dissertation, as you said, is the first step of a research parcours. So for this first step, the first thing that you need is to acquire the methodology of research. That's very, very important for you guys. What is the methodology? You need to identify your problems, you need to try to solve the problems, you need to read articles, scientific articles, acquire this rigor in terms of methodology. And this is the first step. And maybe if you decide to continue, to go further, for your PhD, you might answer very exciting questions. So it will be the second step.
Yeah, so that's it's really animation in research. That's definitely that. You told about the supervisor. How do you work with him and how is it going? Oh, well,
yes.
Okay, I didn't know that. So,
she is my supervisor. So, well, I find the changes personally because I used to know Mr. Mzahi because we had class together. So when you know him, when you already had contact with him, it's easier. Especially, well, but I think that it is easy to contact him, but it has to be, you know, your decision. You have to look for it because, however, they put that process with some livrables, so they can, you know, follow you all the year. It is a very personal work. And it is different from the other assessments because you have maybe sometimes 2, 3, 4 months between the two livrables. So you will have to be self-responsible of your work and decide to work, not to put it because you have too many pages to write, too many things to look for. It's just impossible if you maybe try to do it the 2 or 3 days before the end. So, and it is the same way for the supervisor. You have to decide to go for it. You are at the end of your courses. You are.
How did that happen? Did you ask Chourouk to be your supervisor?
No. It's something. It's from the administration.
Actually, the professors have a list of their research topics. So, for example, I am in marketing, I can supervise dissertations in digital marketing, international marketing. So I actually give a list of specialties in terms of research, the topics that I am working on actually in my research activity, daily research activity. I give this list to the administration, to Géraldine de la Rupée, and then the administration will allocate actually the students according to the specialties of the professors. So I won't supervise, for example, a dissertation in finance or in accounting. It's possible.
But there is no choice.
No, there is no choice, but it sometimes it happens that it's very rare. You have some troubles with your supervisor, you have some problems, you can, it doesn't fit because of the supervisor or because of the students or because of the relationship, both of them. You may ask the administration, there is a problem, what can you do for me? And at this moment, maybe we can switch or change the supervisor.
Okay. My last question for you, Jasmine, do you feel supported in that work? Because you said it's not easy, that's true, and that's why it's interesting. Do you feel supported by the tool, by the processes, by the people, by the library? How do you feel? What's your global feeling about this work?
Well, yes, I think that we do feel supported. Everything is here for helping you. The supervisors or just some teachers that you can meet just in some breaks, and they ask you about your memoir and you just start talking about it. I also maybe feel a lot supported by my family because they're just like, oh, your memoir, and just start talking, and when it is something you like to talk about it, it's easier.
You said you were speaking several languages.
Yeah.
In which language do you write your memoir?
I do write it in French, but you have the choice to write it either in English or in French, but depending on your specialty. For example, as I were doing the international business management, I had the choice to do it in English, either in French, but I think that in some specialty you don't have the choice. You must write it in English if you do the double degree, for example, or you must write it in French for other.
The double degree is always in
English.
And the topic is different because the student choose the topic here in Poitiers. It's not related to London.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much, Jasmine, for being with us and for this very interesting testimony.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So now we're looking for another student. Please, Oriane, for the INCO program. For another interesting testimony. Good morning, Oriane. Welcome. Have a seat.
Good morning.
So, I will ask probably another question, but first, what are you studying on? What's your topic of your dissertation?
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Oriane Martin, and I am in fourth year in Poitiers. I made a double degree in IMCO, International Marketing and Communication. So the first
Where? Just say where.
in Greenwich, and so the second semester is in Poitiers, only in English. So the first question maybe is why making a thesis in English, because it can be complicated for a French student. I didn't really have the choice, but nevertheless I decided to make a thesis in management. So even if I'm studying in marketing, you can still make a thesis in another field. And I choose the topic about the Generation Y, and I think it's really interesting because it concerns all of us as we are entering the marketplace.
Okay, because you consider that this is something that talks to you, this Generation Y.
Exactly, it's because during my gap year I worked for the company mémoire, so it's a tax and consulting audit company, and this is a big group in 71 countries. They decided to make an interview of the Generation Y because they are recruiting a lot of people from schools such as fBS, for example. They wanted to know what is interesting for this generation, how can you retain these talents, because as soon as you have made 1 or 2 years in audit, you have seen pretty much everything. So why these talents are escaping, where are they going, and this company where I was working, we made an international survey. So I had to contact many people with my contacts. As I have been in ALOA, the association, I could reach a lot of people from Australia, America, England, etc. And we succeeded. So we interviewed more than 1,000 people, and we collected data. It was about gender equality between men and women at work, but I decided to go further for my thesis. So I chose a management topic, how to explore the satisfaction of wires in France. So how are you involved in the company? Why are you satisfied or not? What can be the dimension that helps to make you stay in the company? So this is my topic, and I think it's very interesting. So I wanted to go further.
It means that your year out helps you for the choice of your topic for the dissertation.
Yes,
exactly.
exactly.
The first step. So it started before the global process.
So when I saw that the generation-wide topic was in the subject proposed, because you have to choose in April, the year before you start, a good topic. I was currently working for Mzahi, so I was totally making research about this subject. It was on my way, and I saw this topic, so I said yes, I'm gonna pick it. And my tutor agreed on the fact that I was studying it from the management point of view. So yeah.
So is it social sciences oriented? Is it very transdisciplinary? Because when we talk about generation, right, we think about sociology, definitely. Did you make this choice on purpose for this social sciences approach?
It's not completely on a sociological approach, like you said, but it's true that, for example, for my first part, the population I'm studying, I need to know what are the definitions, where is it coming from. So yes, you can talk it from a sociology point of view, a history point of view. What is a cohort? Why do we call it like that? And you will see that different scientists will not have the same point of view. But I'm not just talking about generation Y. First, you also need to understand theories like organizational commitment, satisfaction at work, what is to be a good manager, for example. You have the 3 roles of the managers from Mintzberg. So I think it's very management oriented in the case of my topic. But it took me a while to understand that, as like Chourouk said, you need to make a lot of research before. For my first livrable, I got a very bad grade because I felt it was going to conferences, reading journal article online was sufficient. But actually, you have a lot of people who talked about it before you. You need to cite your source. And the main issue for people like us as French students is that in France we don't have we're not really used to cite our references. So we have to use Harvard referencing system. And in Greenwich we got a very good library system with a lot of data. Nothing compared to what I could see in France, because it's working differently. But it was very useful for me to learn that and to be academic and not just talking about the topic that I'm passionate by.
Journal, yeah.
Exactly.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, that's why it's valuable, and that's why it's important in this work, because it allows the students to have this another approach, which is not natural to us.
You need to acquire it. You need, and even for your job, it's very important. Mastering theories such as the management organization or all the theories that you mentioned is very important, and it enables you also to speak in a smart way about management in general. So I think it's a very good testimony, because it explains how important it is for you to work seriously on your dissertation. Yeah.
Which difficulty did you have? Do you have, because it's not over for you?
What kind of difficulties? For instance, I have to collect the data right now. So we just have 1.5 months to finish our thesis for the French students, especially for the international ones. I need to collect data about people who are already working, who are French. I need to select the people that fit with the conditions of my survey. So I have a lot of friends in my case, and I know a lot of people that are currently studying still. So this is the main issue I have. Otherwise, the redaction, the English style, not making misspelling mistakes, but also it's very good to make a thesis for me, but how to integrate it in my employability skills, how to make my research of a job efficient, how to link it with, for example, on my LinkedIn profile, I put it as a project, as I worked with other people on it. And I think it's very interesting for me to put that forward, to show to recruiters that, yeah, it's going to help me later. I have some management knowledge about this generation, and maybe I could be a manager of other wires when I will start to work. So I think exactly. So you really need to put it on your CV, and many people don't do that. I've noticed that even in the 4th years. And I think this is what you're doing about it at the end. It's not necessarily doing it that is a problem, that is a difficulty.
So that's why it's important to differentiate yourself from the labor market when you're looking for a job, if you have that on your CV. An interesting topic. You have a supervisor. Who is he or who is she?
Her name is...
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Her name is Elena Issi. I think she's German. She's a research assistant in Tours, and I met her basically per mail. So the first advice I give you is that to install good contact with the person, introduce yourself, talk about your patient. For me, it was very, how to say, credible and legitimate to start with this topic. I was already able to give her some experience that I got before, so she was very pleased with that. And the main problem I had is that I was abroad. I was in Paris and I was in London. I've basically never seen her, but we Skyped. It was very useful. And finally, after a while, there is a trust that you can build. So she's giving me tips, and she's really helping me in what I'm doing. Even if she doesn't master really well the topic I choose, because you can have a tutor that will not be an expert in the field that you're choosing.
That's very important. Sometimes the professor doesn't really master your problem identification that you are aiming to solve. But the role actually of the supervisor is to help you respecting the research methodology. That's his role, to tell you, oh, you need to use scientific articles, be careful. You need to choose, for example, quantitative methodology for this subject instead of the qualitative methodology. So he will help you in terms mainly of methodology, actually.
How do you feel about this global process? Do you feel supported by school, by the people here? Do you feel alone and lonely? What's your global feel?
I have to say that if you go, for example, in my program in IMCO, we have classes related to the topic of our thesis. So we had, for instance, research methods, which concern the livre 3 that you have to make. How do I collect my data? Which priorities do I use? Likert scale, stuff like that, statistics. And we also had another classes which was called Foundation of Scholarship. So basically they teach us how to use the Harvard referencing system. I had to say that I didn't have any experiences before. I'm sure my colleagues will say the same. So we had a module at the beginning of the year that was teaching us how to do. It was very useful. So we had to make a literature review. So it was a bit doubling the work we had made for the thesis. That was really helpful. So I felt that I was really supported by the teacher of Greenwich, and in parallel, my tutor of Tours. But for the people who are making a French thesis, it's completely different, as the requirements are not the same, I think. And we put a point to be very professional and academic, because we got the English point of view, the English point of teaching. It's completely different.
It's not only another language, it's much more than that. It's another approach, it's another spirit.
And I was, just to finish, I was really surprised to see that many international students who we are working with now, they are following these requirements. And citing your source, like I said, is very important, and I'm sure that our master thesis will be pretty much different from the French one. So let's see if the requirements will change in the future with fBS, and see if we will use the international way of thinking and not just the French way.
Yeah, we are going international.
Yeah, we are going international. New and useful and definitely international. That's true for fBS Campus Poitiers and for fBS on the global group scale. My last question will be about what you're going to do afterwards. Do you want to continue to go on with studying and research, or do you want to go in the labor market?
It's a very tricky question, because
Yeah,
I think we are always learning. In my case, I would like to practice more my German, as I'm from Alsace. And so I would like to make a video in Germany, because you can work in a French or an English company, but you can be immersed in the country. So it would be a way for me to practice the language. And this is not just about research, but I'm researching a way of learning continuously. And I think for your CV you need to be a good competitor on the market, you need to improve your skills all the time. And as you see, the technologies, for instance, in marketing, is always changing from month to month, and I will have to make research definitely all the time.
Yeah, so even if it's not the PhD or the French doctorate, you have this proactive urge of going on with learning. Thank you very much, Oriane, for this interesting testimony. So now we are going to have an interesting student from Greenwich University. Please welcome So welcome, have a seat. Thank you for being with us. Can you tell us exactly where you come from, Greenwich?
Yeah, I'm from Greenwich University. I've been studying basically all around the world. I've traveled a lot because my mom doesn't stay in one place a long time, so we've been traveling a lot, so I've studied in a lot of places. Greenwich is the only place I've stayed for a long while. So I've actually started doing my master's last semester, so September 2013. I got an acceptance from different universities to study forensic accounting, but I got acceptance from Greenwich as well to study a dual-hour program, so I was like having 2 masters in 1 year, so it was best in it, so I just took it.
That's great choices. How is it going for the dissertation process in Greenwich? Is it very different from what we have here, of course?
It's kind of completely different, not even close. Greenwich, we normally start dissertations after we finish, basically. So, in France, you guys are on it. We normally start, we just do certain parts with our supervisors. We don't have, our deadlines are mainly September after we finish classes, like, so we have 4 months to write a dissertation in our free time. While with you guys, you start beforehand, so it is completely different, not even close.
So it's longer here in France?
Yeah, you guys have it longer to do in 1 year, whereas we start basically in June, May, after we finish exams.
So you didn't start in years?
We started, but it's not like going in depth. I've done basically all my literature review. I started collecting data, which is quite a headache to get exact. So it's basically one of the main problems in dissertations.
So that's one of your difficulties, collecting data.
I mean, like, for somebody who was never started writing dissertations because of a field you did as an undergrad, because I studied accounting. So in London, in accounting, it's more academic. Like, if you do accounting as an academic course, like rather than ACCA. So I have never thought about writing a dissertation until I started this. So it was kind of like, for me, trying to write a literature review, it's like, oh damn, what am I going to write? So it's kind of like confusing. So I had to start in all that stuff at a short period of time. But I have courses that along the way that help me right in Greenwich Foundation Scholarship, research methods to check how I'm going to collect the data. But because I studied accounting, analyzing data was never a difficulty for me. So if I get a data, I can analyze it. But yeah, for everything was a bit fresh for me.
And you have a supervisor too, as here in Poitiers campus.
Yeah, no, I don't have a supervisor in Poitiers campus.
Okay, but you have one in Greenwich.
I have one in Greenwich, yeah.
Okay. How do you work with him? Or with her?
It's her name is Patricia. So we've been working through emails. I've met her twice. So we are kind of on a collision course between her, because she wants me to choose a topic when we are starting that I don't want to choose because I'm not interested in it. So I chose my own course. I went for online banking because I got a lot of interest in online banking and I saw a lot of passion in it. So she didn't want me to start with online banking, but I ended up winning that vote, so I chose online banking. But we are going on with it, tracking ahead.
So you work through email, you said?
Yeah, emails, yeah.
Do you Skype, like Royal said?
No.
No,
I've never Skyped her, but I'm going back in London in May, so I'm going to meet her for one more time. Then it's going to be back to emails.
So even though we are not very close, we can work with the supervisor through email suspense. And that's something that might be very valuable for us to know, because as students, when we didn't start, we don't know exactly how we can work with the supervisor, if you move for the semester abroad or in another country. So this is something that might help you, the fact that your supervisor is using emails.
I mean, you need a supervisor in the first place. Without a supervisor, you are like, because you're new in it. If you don't have the supervisor, you're going to go ahead. The supervisor might be the one who has the knowledge to help you go forward. The supervisor wouldn't write your paper for you. That's completely out of question. Will only assist you in the mistakes you do and lead you to the right way. The supervisor is not going to collect data for you. He's just going to tell you this is a good idea to collect data from. So if the supervisor starts helping you, that's completely out of character. So your work is not basically yourself. So it's not like accountants. Accountants will normally say true and fair play. So it's not your own work. So supervisors generally have to help. They have to be there to assist you in your work. You need it. If you don't have it, then if you get a good grade, then probably you're a genius. But I'm not sure you're gonna get that without a supervisor.
Yeah, definitely. How do you feel as far as the global process is concerned? Do you feel very supported in Greenwich and why not in campus of Poitiers?
It's still the same, kind of like the different atmosphere. Because in Poitiers we do a lot of practical work in terms of we do a lot of research basically. I think all my courses I've been in Poitiers, I've been researching a lot, writing a lot of reports, doing a lot of presentations. In Greenwich it's much more like academia. Teacher comes, teaches you, leads, you have more individual time to learn. But in Poitiers everything you do is in class. You get all the information, all the data. In Greenwich, you don't get all the information, all the data. Some of the data you have to get it for yourself. So, like in terms of the education style as well, in Poitiers, I have my classes and I have my exams. So, right about the same time, when in Greenwich, I have my exams in May, January, like at the end of the semesters. So, it was kind of like a different for me, but at the same time, it added value to the different international varieties you go through different areas. So you understand different cultures and everything. So it was alright.
And through this process, do you feel like going on with research afterwards? As a doctorate student or a PhD student?
Yeah, if I'm offered Mohammed's job, I'll do my doctorate.
Yes,
yeah. If I get his job, I'll do it.
Okay. In which language do you write your
English.
In English, yeah. It's a choice you made, or?
No, you only have to write in English when you're in England, so it's kind of like the same point.
You could do it.
Yeah, it was easy choice. It was always going to be English, so I don't think people in London that studying different languages.
Okay, well, thank you very much for this very interesting testimony. I will ask you to conclude and say the last word about that. We saw that it's very, it's not an easy task, but it's a very intellectual, motivating task.
Yeah.
For sure, your last word.
Yeah, so first I would like to thank
you very much.
All the students for their testimonies, because it's very important for you guys to have the experience from the point of view of students, because it's different when professors or supervisors talk about the dissertation. It remains, not very clear for you, but when students talk about this topic, it's clear for you. So it's very interesting because we can see that the importance of this exercise for you, for your career, the methodology, the knowledge that you acquire during this process. And we can also see the role of the supervisor, as our students from Greenwich say. The supervisor won't do the dissertation for you. He will guide you, actually. He will help you. He will give you recommendations in terms of methodology. He will explain you how we write a dissertation report, a research report, but he won't write it for you. This is very important to know. And he won't also correct every version of your work, because in this time he will correct his own or her own work. So it's very important for you guys to know that it's you who are going to do the dissertation, and it's a very important and interesting and sometimes, according to the subject, exciting exercise for you. So, and don't hesitate also to contact yourself, the supervisor. It's his role, he is here for that, to support you, to help you. And we will talk, I think, later on about the support that the library offers. And to give you the desire or the energy to work on your dissertations, we will have the 3 presentations of our 3 professors about hot topics in different disciplines. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much, Chourouk Mzahi, responsible for the research in Poitiers campuses fBS. And we talk and go on with talking about research with professors and teachers and hot topic just after a small break. Thank you very much for all of you.